Today on the channel, it's the return of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, and it is a somber one. The fans have spoken. You guys requested it. We're going to do a Top 5 Scott Hall. Welcome everyone, Kyle here. Welcome back to the channel for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 5. As every single Thursday on the channel, it is tradition now, we do my top 5 favorite wrestler, action figure line, most disappointing toy line, favorite of something. You guys get the picture, but we count them down from 5 to number 1, with number 1 being my favorite. And occasionally we do a top 10 list when we hit certain YouTube subscriber milestones, like every 1,000 or so. We do that, and that's where I ask the Patreon members to help me choose a top 10. But every Thursday, like I said, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the old notification bell if you don't want to miss a top 5 or 10 list. But today's top 5, unfortunately, is a very, very somber one. I didn't really have plans to do this as a top 5, but I had a lot of people messaging me asking for this. Of course, we did do a Ramon top 5 a few months ago on the channel, so if you missed that, check that one out. But today, we're going to do the top 5 Scott Hall figures of all time, as voted by me. And as always with these, this is my list. This is my top 5 list. Make sure you put your top 5 list in the comments down below. Now, I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to say that Scott Hall was my favorite wrestler of all time, that he was even in my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. But if you're of my age, a lot of ages out there, he touched your wrestling universe somewhere along the way. Maybe you go way back to the AWA days like me, where I remember him very at the end of the AWA. Definitely remember the Diamond Stud, and then, of course, Razor Ramon. And I liked Razor Ramon, but he just was never in my top 5. But I always respected his work as Scott Hall, especially. And I actually probably preferred Scott Hall's solo career over Razor Ramon. I don't know if everybody's that way or not. But to me, my favorite Scott Hall moment is definitely when he walked onto Nitro for the first time. I think we are definitely due an all-denim Canadian tuxedo Scott Hall figure. That is my favorite portion of his wrestling career was when he did that, and he really set the world on fire, changed the industry from there. A lot of good stuff. I loved him in the NWO, the Wolfpack in that. And the thing, whenever I think about Scott Hall, one of the things I think of the most is, and it's very strange, maybe you think this as well, but how big of a dude Scott Hall was. But he seems like he's not a big dude because he had Kevin Nash by his side so much of his career. It made him seem very, very small. But Kevin Nash is a giant, a legit giant. If you're over, 6'11", 7'1", you're a super giant. And that's what Kevin Nash was, which made Scott Hall always seem a little bit smaller. But I was always shocked when I'd see Scott Hall, how big he looked compared to on TV, if that makes any sense out there. But there's nobody denying Scott Hall, definitely first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greats of all time. But you know how it is. Everybody likes what they like, and he just was never a top-tier favorite of mine. And I am never going to sit here and just say, oh, Scott Hall was my favorite of all time. You guys know, you can see through that kind of stuff. And we see that, unfortunately, and I always cringe a little bit when people die. It's always sad. It's always disappointing, but it seems like everybody was the biggest Scott Hall fan in the world, but you never hear about it when they're living, and that always drives me nuts. You guys know I'm very passionate about what I like and who I love and the characters I like. I let it be known all the time because, hey, maybe they'll hear it. Maybe they'll get, that shot in the arm and say, oh, that's cool, Kyle likes me. Probably not, but I always let it be known. I always wear my likes on my sleeve. Everybody knows what I like. I don't ever have a closet favorite that I don't talk about and I don't tell my friends about or family about or whatever, because you got to celebrate these people when they're here. It's always disappointing when anybody goes. Very sad times, and it happens to all of us, unfortunately. But very, very somber with Scott Hall passing. But we're going to celebrate him here today the best we can do. I guess the best I can do on my channel. And we're going to count down my top 5 Scott Hall figures of all time. And I'm even going to throw in one, and this is a little bit of a curveball, but we're going to throw one honorable mention in here. There's a lot of toy lines I do not like, and one of those was the Marvel Toy Biz WCW line. I was just not a fan of those. For whatever reason, maybe it was my age at the time, I don't know what it was, but I just don't have a fondness for those figures, and you don't see them come up in my top 5, top 10 list ever. But this one is coming in as a special, just a one-off here. We're going to do it here as an honorable mention. It's the Scott Hall Smash and Slam. I almost said Slam and Smash, but Smash and Slam. And I didn't buy this figure. I've never owned this figure, but I definitely remember seeing it at KB Toys all the time. And it was the one he had a little Sting mask with him, which, he wore the Sting mask, pull it off, that kind of thing. For some reason, that always caught my eye, and I didn't really like a whole lot of those Toy Biz figures. I never purchased any myself on the store when they were on the shelf pegs. But I saw that one, and I'd always see that one. I'd say, man, that is a cool figure. It just looks really cool. And not in my top 5, just outside of top 5. You won't really see any of those Marvel Toy Biz ones in any of these top 5s. But this one I felt deserved an honorable mention, so I wanted to bring that up here at the top. But without further ado, I'm going to start my top 5 list. Make sure you have yours. Put it in the comments down below, and let's kick it off in tribute to Scott Hall, the top 5 Scott Hall figures of all time. All right, we're going to kick it off at number 5 like we always do. We're going to count them back, but number 5 comes from Mattel. It comes from the Mattel Elite line. It comes from a Target exclusive line. We're narrowing it down here. Target exclusive Hall of Fame 4-pack, WCW style 4-pack, and it is the Scott Hall in the blue jeans, the black NWO shirt. I talked about how I loved the denim look, but this is another classic NWO Scott Hall look. Him in his blue jeans, the black t-shirt, glasses, just cool. A little bit plain Jane, not a ton of bells and whistles with this figure, but it is very cool. It is very iconic to me. Now, this is part of that 4-pack I mentioned of WCW guys. Very, very strange 4-pack, and a 4-pack that went to deep clearance in many a Target stores, as it just didn't have the rhyme and reason. It was very disappointing. You got Kevin Nash to match this, but he was in the NWO red shirt. Why they wouldn't have put them both in the black and white in the same pack is just one of the all-time Mattel mysteries, and we've had a few. We'll call Robert Stack. We'll have some unsolved mysteries one of these days, but very disappointing not to get a matching Hall and Nash in that pack. The Nash was not very good, honestly. I didn't like that one. Then you got an Eddie Guerrero, which looked really weird with the bell-bottom jeans. The LWO inspired I liked, but just not the best Eddie Guerrero. And then you got Larry Zbyszko thrown in, just in there, and it just didn't make sense. I guess it was a way to get Zbyszko in the line, which I do approve of. As a little kid, I remember watching him in the AWA as champion, and of course his WCW time. I'm all for a Larry Zbyszko figure. I'd love a Larry Zbyszko announcing figure one of these days. But it just felt like a slap together, what extra figures do we have for a 4-pack, and we'll give it as a Target exclusive. That's how that pack felt to me. So it wasn't really as special as it probably could have been. It could have really celebrated some WCW history instead of just throwing random guys together. But the Scott Hall, very, very iconic. The black and white NWO, the blue jeans, the sunglasses. Not the most decor, not the most colorful, but definitely top 5 worthy, and that's why it's number 5 on my top 5 list. All right, we're at the number 4 spot, and the number 4 spot comes once again from Mattel. We go all the way back to Elite 51, almost 50 series ago. Very, very crazy that we're almost to Elite Series 100 at this point of filming this video, but Elite 51, way back in the day, we go to Outsider Scott Hall. So we talked about the black and white NWO. Now we get that red and black attack, and when I close my eyes and I think of Scott Hall, I usually think of the denim, and then I also think of the red and black attack look to him. And then, of course, if you close your eyes, you think Razor Ramon. I go back to those early vignettes with the kind of Hawaiian-style t-shirts and things like that. That's what I think of with Razor. But like I said, we already did a Razor Ramon top 5. Check that one out if you want to. We're talking Scott Hall here. And Elite 51, Outsiders gear. Very, very cool. The red, kind of the blood dripping. Always looked really good. The Outsiders were very cool. Very cool tag team, especially for the 90s. Still cool to this day. It's always funny, like I said earlier, is how Scott Hall, big, giant dude, just looks so small next to Kevin Nash. And he was the little guy in the group, which is just... It's crazy. It's hard to wrap your head around unless you saw them together in person to really understand how big that tag team was. Sometimes I think that gets lost, and maybe that's just me. I don't know. But this one, very cool. Once again, you get the sunglasses. Nice ponytail on Scott Hall. Of course, the iconic vest. He made late 90s vest wearing really cool. Him and DDP, probably. And then, like I said, you got kind of the blood-dripping look of the red and the black. Just very, very iconic Scott Hall gear. The hair down, too, could have been an option here. I'm sure if this was ran back in this day and age, we might have got a hair down version and a hair in a ponytail version, like we have right here. But a very, very cool one. A figure that was not setting the world on fire, was a pretty cheap one. I'm sure it's more expensive right now. That's unfortunately what always happens. But a very, very cool one. That's why it comes in at number 4 on my top 5 list. All right, we're at the halfway point. You got your list together. Make sure you put it down below in the comments. Let me know your top 5 Scott Hall figures. And number 3 for me is his most recent figure. We're going back to the Target Legends line. We're going to Legends Series 11. We're going to Scott Hall. Very, very interesting. A little bit similar to the last one we talked about. But for number 3 here, more of the end-of-the-road Scott Hall. This is kind of, when I think of this, I think of him coming out to the Fugees music in ECW. Some of the later years, he's got his hair down. He's got his NWO shirt. The red and black attack is there from the Outsiders. This is more of the, give him one of those type looks, Scott Hall. Obviously, Scott Hall had a lot of demons. That's been told throughout. This is more of his demon era. I'd say at the height of that. He's got the do-rag at the top. Just really over-the-top Scott Hall. Something magical about this one, though. And I know a lot of people don't like this one, and he does lose some points for the face. If this was a dead-on face sculpt, this would be a little bit higher on my list. That's how much I like this era of Scott Hall, the look to it, the hair down, the headband, like I said. A little soft, a little weird in the face, but looking past that, the whole figure, absolutely phenomenal. A little bit underrated, I think. When time goes by, I think this will be underrated. Like I said, a lot of people did not like this one at first. And this looks better at different angles. Sometimes you look at it, it looks a little too glossy in the face. Sometimes you look at it from the right angle, it looks a lot better. So it's a very weird one. It plays little mind tricks with you. But series, for number 3, Legends Series 11, had to be on my list, and that is why he's here at number 3. All right, we're down to the final 2 in my top 5 Scott Hall figures of all time. And number 2 and number 1 have a lot of similarities together, and we'll talk about those here, but we got to do number 2 first. And number 2 comes from Ringside Collectibles. It is the Ringside Collectibles Mattel Elite Scott Hall, black and white NWO. I'm just a sucker for, as we talked about in the last few, with the red and black, with kind of the blood drip look. Well, he's got that on the black and white here, the NWO. He also came with a vest. Scott Hall, like we said, a master of the vest. It might be vest season in the future, and it might be in honor of Scott Hall. So cape season still running wild, running free, but we may see vest season one of these days. But always like this Scott Hall. The packaging, of course, phenomenal on this Scott Hall. Ringside collectible exclusive, like I mentioned. Just really cool. And one I would see them possibly running back one day. I'm sure we're going to get more Scott Hall figures in the future. I don't know if it'll be a while. Usually they have a kind of a moratorium on them for a while when unfortunately a wrestler passed, but I think we will see more Scott Hall figures in the future, and this is one I could see maybe getting an Ultimate Edition Scott Hall one day in this kind of attire or something, or maybe another Ringside exclusive, or possibly another Legends release. There's a lot of ways they could go. They could give us the pinless joints, the double jointed stuff, extra head sculpts, things like that. I could see this one maybe in that greatest hits line that's been rumored to happen. We'll see where it shakes out. But I always did like this figure. I couldn't look past this figure. And actually, I was looking through my collection. I almost forgot this one. I was looking. I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. And luckily, I found it right before we started filming. And this one, very, very cool. Very hard to get at this point. That's why I think we might see a re-release down the line. But for me, number 2 Scott Hall figure of all time, the Mattel Ringside Collectibles exclusive. Now we're at the end. We're at number 1. Who made the number 1 spot? Stay tuned. All right, we're at the number 1 spot. We're at the number 1 Scott Hall figure of all time as voted by me. As usual, make sure you put your list in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Follow along on Patreon so you can get these videos early, like this one about a week early from when it drops on traditional YouTube, and about 20 other videos early as well, plus exclusive videos, things like that. Check it out on Patreon. Follow me on social media, SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson, and ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson. So now the number 1 spot. It's always interesting in these lists. I always talk about, I usually pick I pick a group, and then I marinate. I let it sit for a day or two, and then I come back, okay, do things change around, stuff like that. And I always close my eyes. And when I think Scott Hall, Razor Ramon's not in this list. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. We did Razor separate. Scott Hall only right here. The first one that came to my mind when I closed my eyes, and after all the waiting, the mulling it over, this one still stayed number 1. It's an intriguing one. And once again, we're back to Ringside Collectibles. We're at a Ringside Collectible exclusive. And I really like the Scott Hall figure in this pack, but his partner, Big Sexy, of course, Kevin Nash, I don't like the figure at all. So it's a very strange pack. What am I talking about? We're talking the Ringside Collectible exclusive Outsiders 2-pack. Hall and Nash, you got the title belt, you got the title, or the chair right there, of course. There's that Kevin Nash. Always looked really strange to me. He looks a little bit like the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz, and very, very small on that Kevin Nash. Just the scaling, I get it, scaling, but it just feels weird. It's just not right on him. But then the Scott Hall is interesting. Now, is this the most articulated Scott Hall? Is it? No. But for whatever reason, this is the one I always think of. And at the time, this came out in 2007, an extremely strong likeness to Scott Hall. Yes, the head's maybe a hair big. Maybe it doesn't have the bells and whistles of later Mattels, but it is just so iconic to me. So cool. You guys know the Classic Superstars is my favorite wrestling figure line of all time. I just think it was really cool. It changed the game, and it kept me collecting action figures where I was at a time where it was probably time to set sail. You get that fork in the road. Classics kept me in the game, and here we are now. I like this one. It comes with the chain as well. I forgot to mention that. But it's got the outsider paint, the black and the red, Hall on the tights. You got his vest. But I always thought it was a very, very good likeness of Scott Hall here. But I always felt it was just a hair big. I get that. But all in all, a very, very good look for Scott Hall. Now, we did see the same head sculpt used in the Deluxe Classic Scott Hall in more of the traditional NWO gear. Not a big fan of that one. I always felt the head was even too big for that body. And then I didn't like how he looked down. It was almost like he was constantly looking down, which really threw that figure off for me. But just being the outsiders, being with Kevin Nash, being part of Classic Superstars, being what we had back then. And when I close my eyes and I think of a Scott Hall wrestling figure, this is where my mind goes. Now, I can see a lot of people having this somewhere on their list, maybe not number one. I know a lot of people like the extra articulation, the bells and whistles of Mattel, but nobody's wrong. This is my list. You'll have your list in the comments down below. But number one for me, gonna have to go to the Classic Superstars, gonna have to go to the Outsiders 2-pack. Really fitting 2-pack, bringing it all together. So that is my number one. As I said, put yours in the comments down below. Try to pay a little bit of tribute here to Scott Hall. And like I said, I felt weird. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I had like 10 messages saying, you really should do it. You really should do it. And I said, you know what? Maybe it is a good tribute. Maybe it's not. And I guess view how you want to view it. But I'm happy. We were going to do it eventually. We're going to get to everybody eventually. But no better time than now, I guess, to celebrate Scott Hall. And remember, you know, watch some Scott Hall videos, things like that. He truly was the bad guy. That's for sure. But Scott Hall, may he rest in peace. So there it is. That's the Scott Hall top 5. Make sure you put yours in the list down below. And we'll see you next Thursday for another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 5.